The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, and welcome to this webinar today on search engine results soaring through focusing on text on a website. This is one of our monthly Core Cubed webinars, and I'd like to first say welcome to everyone who's attending, and thank you so much for your time today. We do have you on mute. We have all of our attendees on mute because we find it makes a much better webinar if you don't hear background noise. However, we do welcome questions, so if you have questions, I will be moderating and I'll be on paying attention and answering questions if you have one. So please feel free to go to the right-hand side of your screen and type in a question, and we'll either answer it. I'll either ask the question because I'm going to be asking questions of our panelists throughout this webinar, or we will deal with it at our question and answer session at the end of the webinar. So my name is Marilee Orsini, and I am the Managing Director of Core Cubed, and we are an Internet marketing company. And today, let me first introduce our panelists. I'll go through and introduce all four, and then I'll come back and ask questions of each of them. Will Chatham is our web manager here at Core Cubed, and Will Chatham really does head up our web development team. Sorry, did not mean to move him forward like that. He is an expert at WordPress, and since 1999, Will has been working directly with technology and the Internet and has an incredibly broad spectrum of skills outside of just his Internet skills, but he does have skills related to work, web design to system administration to information security. So really a wealth of knowledge. And his experience has provided him the opportunity to work on lots of projects and in lots of different kinds of businesses, nonprofit, corporate, small business, federal government. So really a very well-rounded web designer and, again, an expert at WordPress. Danielle Lecomte. Hi, Will. I'm going to go ahead and introduce everybody before you.
Okay.
Did you want to say hello? And
just saying hello.
Give people the link to your Star Wars banjo hit. Oh. Just one of his other talents. Danielle Lecomte is our interactive design manager here at Core Cubed, and she is a vital component of our web development team with her expertise in Expression Engine. She's also a designer, however, as well as a developer, and brings a level of design to our Internet sites that are our websites that is just amazing. She does have a degree in web application development, and she does focus on results-driven websites, and that really, she's the one that helps us with our balance between usable and beautiful. And again, her expertise spans small business, corporate, and media clients. So Danielle, I'll let you say hi also, since we're...
Hello, everybody.
Next is Tammy Brown, and she's the creative director at Core Cubed. And Tammy's really known throughout anyone that works with us for her creative thinking and her problem solving. She's been involved with Internet marketing since 1991 and has an incredibly deep skill set that ranges from strategy to design to development. So her project management is extraordinary, and she has worked with a wide variety of industries and a wide variety of sizes of clients. Hey, Tammy, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Next is Leann Hoyer, and Leann is our Internet marketing specialist. She is a seasoned writer, and she's also an editor, and she loves a good creative challenge. So being an Internet marketing specialist is perfect for her. She creates interesting and engaging social media campaigns for us. If any of you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, she does a lot of that strategy and work, and she also does that for our clients. So she's sort of the creative person and the writer behind a lot of what you see that is sort of open to the public here at Core Cubed. So her strengths lie in her creativity and her ability to think outside the box. Hi, Leann. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Good. Great. Well, I'm going to start with the format. I'm just going to ask questions, and I'm going to have our panel, since they're all experts, answer. And if we don't cover all of your questions, again, please feel free to ask. And I'm going to start with planning because, Tammy, planning really is how you start. And again, we're focusing on text and the importance of of text in a website designed for results. So how does the planning come in, Tammy, from a text standpoint?
Planning definitely is a crucial step in terms of getting the right text in the right places on the website. And the whole step of planning where you literally build your site from the ground up and plan what pages are going to be on the site, what's the navigation, the content flow, getting down like what industry they're in and maybe the niche markets associated with the business that they're in, anything that we can get from the client in the planning phase to focus on certain keywords that might be helpful in the search engine process. That is one of my goals in the planning, and then also doing the SEO keyword research in terms of location. What is their service area, or where do they reside? Is it a product-based company, a service-based company? Really looking at all of the various factors. And then once the planning portion is done, like the navigation is pretty much solidified, we go into the keyword research. And if it's a new website, obviously we don't really have much to start with in terms of history. If it's an existing website that we're redesigning or converting, then the hope is that the existing website has a way to get statistics off of the site to see what words people are coming in on with their searches. And so once we get to the point of doing the keyword research, we really look at the popularity of the words or the ranking of the words, and then we will recommend what words should go on what page so that we can help recommend what pages are optimized.
Good. Danielle, take me from a design component standpoint and talk about text from a design standpoint on a website.
Okay, well, text is one of the fundamental things on your site, so you do have to consider it from the design phase at the very beginning, and that's going to involve placement of text on the page, where you're going to have headings, where you're going to place photos or text in relation to photos, and where everything is going to fall for a flow of content, whether it's for navigation or just from reading what's on the page from left to right. So when you're laying out all of your pages and designing everything the way you want it to look, it's very important to keep in mind how users are going to read the text on the page, and sizes and different things like that all come into play whenever you're at the design phase.
And what about text and designing graphics and how that influences someone's ability to actually find websites?
Well, when you get to a point where you are going to take your designs and start building them, you want to take into consideration how much of your text is going to be used within a graphic. And when we code sites, we really try to keep that at a minimum. So when we are creating images that are going to be used in photo slideshows or buttons that are going to have text on top of them, we really try to keep the text separate from the graphic. And what that does is that allows the search engine, when they're crawling the page, they can actually see that live text, and it's not hidden within a graphic.
Okay. Leann, what would you like to add in terms of how text is used?
Well, really, when you are when you're thinking about the type of copy that you want to put on your site, you want it to be easy for people of many different backgrounds to read. You don't want to speak over any potential clients' heads. So it's typically recommended that you keep your writing to a 6th grade reading level or even below. And that said, you still want it to sound, you want it to flow well and sound intelligent, all while keeping a focus on what we'll talk about in a few minutes with the SEO keywords and optimizing for your search engines. And you really just want to make sure that you're getting your pertinent information out there, just the really important info that you want your information to be engaging, but you don't want to drag your text out into long paragraphs either. You want to be succinct. because reading is very different online, and you'll find that too much text is going to overwhelm your users and not keep them engaged and keep them reading.
Okay. Will, you are really, in addition to your WordPress expertise, sort of our resident SEO expertise. Can you talk about incorporating SEO specifically with text?
Certainly. Part of the planning that Tammy was talking about produces a list of keywords that we try to optimize websites for, and those keywords are based on, again, the products or the services that the business is offering. And we develop a strategy, we like to call it simply the SEO keyword strategy, for a website, which we then implement when we're building the site or converting it or redesigning it. And that involves taking certain sets of keywords and optimizing the text on each page for those different sets that we come up with. And that can be everything from optimizing the actual text that visitors to your website read, you know, the main body of text on the page. But it's also important to be aware that there are other areas where text is equally important, if not more important in some cases. They're kind of the behind-the-scenes area in the actual HTML code. You can optimize your page titles, optimize your page descriptions, and all those are very important places to consider your text and your keywords in addition to the main body.
Okay. Talk to me a little more about SEO and other things that are important beyond text.
Well, it's in any kind of SEO campaign, it's important to consider that text is just one facet of a successful effort. And there are other things such as obtaining inbound links from other websites, especially websites that are related to yours or the products that you sell or the services that you offer. It's good to have people linking to you from your neighborhood, so to speak. And additionally, in addition to the inbound links, we like to have very clean code behind the scenes. And the way we like to develop websites, especially with some of the content management systems that we use, is a way that generates very clean HTML code behind the scenes so that when a search engine does come to look at the content on your site, it's not going to find any stumbling blocks or any roadblocks that prevent it from getting access to the text that does contain your keywords. So it's important to make the code clean, and also as long as if the website is very easy to use for the users on the front end, that usually helps encourage the search engine spiders to be able to use it very well on the back end. So all of this kind of ties together because the design is important for the users, the design is important for the search engines, and keeping everything simple, clean, easy to navigate helps all the way across the board.
Okay. We oftentimes talk about hierarchy on a page text. Leann, I believe you covered page text hierarchy. But Will, I'd like you to talk about and define for me H1, H2, some of those terms that we sort of throw out, and I don't know that our audience really knows what all of those mean.
Sure. That's usually in reference to HTML, the actual markup language that your website is built upon. And HTML basically provides a structure for you to organize the text on your page and all the content. And H1 would be a title, such as "Welcome to our website." Ideally, you would incorporate keywords in the very first title on your page, but below the H1 title, you could have a paragraph of text. Below that, you could have an H2, which would be kind of a subtitle or subheading. And organizing your content in a very logical manner using the hierarchy that HTML provides is not only important to your visitors, again, visually scanning through things or looking for stuff on your page, but it's also important for the search engines because it conveys importance to different sections of the page to the search engine, and the search engine will come to your page and see the H1 tag and say, oh, well, this is the most important title on the page, and then it'll start reading through the text below it, and then if you have things like ordered lists or bulleted lists and whatnot, it knows, it recognizes that and gets an idea of what's more important and what's less important on the page.
Okay, now we have had some discussions here about internally about the difference in starting a website design from scratch and our having the ability to input and taking an existing website or having a website where the client is intent on being heavily involved in it. Tammy, can you talk about the differences in the effectiveness of websites? Again, really focused on text more than design, though, from when we are restricted by either an existing site design or by a client's insistence on having input beyond what they really have a knowledge about.
Right. Well, whenever we have what I'm going to label as free reign on the text, meaning the website is ours to develop from beginning to end, which includes the text, we can implement that SEO strategy to the best of our ability to get the best results. And when we're faced with a situation where we're either using the text from an existing site that we may be updating with limitations on not being allowed to update the text, or the client has a heavy hand at editing the text and isn't really open to the type of things that sometimes need to be done to get those keywords in, then it just, diminishes the power of the ultimate SEO combination in terms of page optimization. And there is a distinct difference between website text and brochure text. And website text is for your reader, but it's also, you have to keep in mind, it's being put on your site for the search engines as well. So there really is a dual purpose to it.
And Danielle, what is the statistic when someone comes to your website? How long do you have? Does the person that owns the website, what's that window that before someone's going to leave the site and go someplace else?
Well, these days with how fast the internet is and how easy it is to navigate around, you only have a few seconds. I mean, you really need to grab somebody's attention right away and have content as well as graphics that are engaging and really catch the eye. And you've only got a few seconds to do that, so not much time at all.
So, great reason to to have a very good design and some good compelling text. I'm going to show a couple of things here, and Will, I'm going to let you talk about these. I've got results here to show for a couple of websites. Then I'm going to actually show you the websites that we did design, and both of these websites were designs that we were allowed to have total freedom in terms of what the design looked like. I say total freedom within some parameters, but pretty total design for the site. But more important than that, for this webinar, we were able to actually use text. Will, do you want to come back and talk about the SEO results for this particular site?
Sure. This was a site that we developed, and again, we were able to have good control over all of the pages and the keywords and implement a very good keyword strategy across the website. And that's kind of reflected here in this graph. What we're looking at is the total number of visits per day for this website since we launched it in late November. And as you can see, the trend is steadily rising, and as the text on the site gets indexed by the search engines and we have been able to optimize the keywords and target specific keywords per page, that the general traffic trend is increasing, which means that the placement in the search engine results for the given keywords we're using is high or getting higher. And as you can see, it started out at about 20 visits a day and is peaking at over 40 visitors a day. On a bit of a bigger scale, this is another website we did for a company called HomeTrack. Their visitors also are steadily increasing. The trend line is not so sharp, but that's because they have much higher count of visitors. And but it is steadily increasing, and it's even peaking at certain points in time.
Good. That's really good. Okay, I'm going to try showing both of these websites and see if I can show our audience so you can actually see what we're talking about in terms of using hierarchy and in terms of using text. And I think some of the other things. And Will, do you want to talk about using text instead of graphics in the navigation and the importance of that? Because we've done that here in HomeTrack, and if you want me to go anywhere in the site, just instruct me and I'll see if I can do it.
Sure. As Danielle mentioned, keeping your text out of images is important for the search engines, because the search engines come to your site, and if they see an image, they just move on because they cannot tell what the image has on it, what it says, if there's any text in it. So a big trend, 5-7 years ago on websites was to have really fancy navigation menus that did all sorts of crazy stuff when you hovered your mouse over them. We try to get away from that, still make them nice looking and usable, but to allow the search engines to find the navigation menu, know what each link says, and be able to find all the other pages on your site, making those text-based is pretty important. Also, we like to include a navigation at the top of the page and then also at the bottom. I think we just looked at that for a brief second there. The bottom allows you to kind of expand the site navigation and list more pages, whereas at the top you're focusing on the main sections of the website, and then when people go into those, they find those subsections as well.
And I think that's another thing that that is important, and I've heard you say many times that yes, we are designing for the search engines, but primarily we're designing for humans. So the human has to find the site easy to use also.
Exactly.
I'm going to go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say the rule of thumb is if you make it easy for the people to use, it's going to be easy for the search engines to use.
Here's another one, and Danielle, you were heavily involved in the design of this, but Will, we did this in WordPress, so you ended up using a lot of Danielle's design and then putting it into WordPress. This is the St. Louis Home Care Company that we showed earlier. Do you want to talk just a minute about the URL, using that instead of using Continuum Care, which was their old URL, in terms of search engine optimization and why we did that? Will?
Danielle or
Will.
Oh, me, okay. Yeah, that's another place where you can have keywords that are important. Obviously, St. Louis Home Care Company is something which does get a lot of search volume in Google and the other search engines. And by search volume, I mean that people are searching for that specific keyword combination a lot. And we have tools which we can look up to see how much a certain keyword is being searched and which ones we should be optimizing for, and which ones are pretty much a waste of time. So something like, obviously someone looking for home care in the St. Louis area is going to go to Google and type in St. Louis home care, that sort of thing. So that's why we recommended a URL containing those keywords, because that can help place some more significance in the search engine's eyes on this website.
Good. Very, very good. I think at this point it is time for Q&A, but I don't have any Q&A right now. No one has actually asked a question, so this would be your time right now if you would like to ask a question of anyone. And I'm going to go back through our panel here and have them just give us some final thoughts on. We all know how important websites are, but any final thoughts they might have or that they did not add when we talked, when I had them talk before. Tammy, do you have something that you would like to add?
Yes. Once the website is developed and live, one thing where I think the keywords are also very important is in directory listings, because whenever you are submitting your site to a directory listing, more times than not, you have the ability to put in like your company description and maybe custom fields of information, and really utilizing that platform to get your keywords in while you're building up those listings also will help in addition to what you have on your site.
Good. Danielle, do you have something you'd like to add that you did not add before?
I would just like to add that, the writing on the site is very, very important, but I think it's also important to note that ongoing, as you're keeping track of your statistics and looking at your results, it is good to go back and edit your text as needed, and keeping it very relative and up to date is very important.
Good. Leann, do you have something that you would like to say?
Yeah, we really like to recommend linking a blog, a company blog, to your site. It's just a great way to produce some fresh content, and maintaining that content and keeping it updated and giving your clients some relevant ongoing information. And it plays a good role in search engines too. You can incorporate some SEO keywords, and people seem to like blogs. They get just give you some really good updated information, so I would recommend that.
Okay. I do have 3 questions, and Will, I'm going to come back to you for a final question in a minute, but I do have 3 that I would like to cover now, and some of these are specific to, and this one I'm going to ask you first, Will. Does it cause confusion if your URL is not your company name for people who are already familiar with your company?
That is a good question, and I think that the way that we optimize a website for, such as the Continuum Care website we were just looking at, whose URL is stlouishomecarecompany.com. When we optimize the site and when someone searches for example, St. Louis Home Care, the name of the company still comes up as the name, as the search result on the results page. So it still says Continuum Care St. Louis or something like that. So you're still able to have your company name as the visual most important thing, and people are still seeing that. They're not going to actually look at your URL as much, and while you can do other things to help assist, such as still, if you still have your company name, such as continuumcare.com, you can forward that to stlouishomecarecompany.com. So once you've changed over to a keyword-based URL, you can still use your company name. You can even use it for email and that sort of thing. But there are ways to kind of accommodate that and try to make it less confusing for your clients, and still keep your company name as the primary focal point visually.
Yes. There used to be a SEO trick that people did that was frowned upon, where they picked lots of URLs, and then as soon as you got there, they immediately switched you over to a different site. So, but this is totally different in terms of picking something that is heavily weighted in terms of words for SEO. So, and we have not found it confusing. I don't know that people really look at URLs when they go to the website, because if they're coming in through the name of the company, I don't know that they notice when they're there what the URL is. What would you say, Will?
I'd say generally that's true. Unless they're, a little bit geekier like I am, they probably are not even going to ever look at it. So.
Well, and I think it's important for this particular client, they kept their continuumcare.com domain for their email, so that never changed.
Right, and all of their marketing material is continuumcare.com, and if you do go to continuumcare.com, you do get over to St. Louis Home Care Company, so immediately. Leann, we've got a question here, and I want Leann to answer this, and then Danielle. Can you talk about content integration for social media applications such as Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn?
Sure. What you want to do when you're setting up a Facebook site or a LinkedIn site is you want to really make sure that you are talking to your followers on those sites about your company. You want to definitely have your your website information on your pages, on your Facebook page, your Twitter page, or your LinkedIn page, so that you're also sending people back to your website, and you know, just you want to find relevant and informative information that you can talk to your followers about that relates to your organization. We talk a lot about marketing and internet marketing and social media on our Core Cubed Facebook page and Twitter page, and really get our clients engaged and talking with us about those things.
Danielle, do you want to add anything to that?
As far as social media, I think, and from a design perspective, I think it's important, especially in like Facebook and things like that, to, you know, it's good to have good content on there, but I think it's important for it to look nice as well.
Okay. Will or Tammy, have anything you'd like to add to that question?
I think also an important point of integration for the social media is on your actual website. And as Leann pointed out earlier, if you have a blog on your website, that's a great place to put, you know, the little buttons you see everywhere for like this on Facebook, or post, you know, retweet this and follow us on Twitter, and those types of things. So not only having social media as a method to drive traffic to your site, but also social media on your site so that people can link up with you on the various outlets which you've set up.
Okay. This is a very good question. Can you talk a bit about the navigation at the bottom of the screen, how it's different from a sitemap, and whether it should mirror your menu up above, etc.?
Danielle, do you want to take a stab at it, or I can?
I don't exactly understand the question.
Okay. Do I need to repeat it, or Will?
Yeah,
do you
if
want
you can repeat it, that would be fine.
The idea was, the question is the navigation at the bottom of the screen, and how does that navigation differ from a sitemap, and whether it should mirror your menu, your regular main navigation, the one at the top. So I think the person is just confused about, Will had made the statement about a different navigation at the bottom, and we use that sometimes for more information within the site.
A lot of the things that that I like to do in regards to the navigation in the bottom of the page, since you're at the bottom of the page and you usually can work with the real estate down there a little bit differently, I like to use that space to display more of the internal pages of the site as well. Your main navigation at the top, you know, you kind of want it to be quick and to the point, taking people to the main sections of the site. But in the footer, you can really get into linking to more pages within the site, which I think is good for search engine optimization. But also, not to confuse it with a sitemap that you would, you know, submit for SEO reasons. We like to call it a sitemap footer because we are listing out more of the pages that can link. So it's giving you the opportunity to link to more pages within your site, but it's on every page without having to crowd it in with your other content. So that's,
I can expand on that a little bit more. There are actually two types of sitemaps. One is a sitemap that's based on XML, which is what we submit to, for instance, Google, and it lists out every single page on the site in a hierarchical order, and we submit that through Google's Webmaster Tools, and then Google is aware that this site has a sitemap, and it says, oh, well, here are all the pages on the site. I'm going to make sure I look at everything on these pages. And then there's also the sitemap, which is more for the user, which is typically lists out every single page on the site as well, and visually is appealing. It's within the design of the website. It's hierarchical, and makes it easy to find something if you happen to get lost, or you find a page that doesn't exist, or something like that. You can display the visual sitemap for the user.
I have a question here, too, and this is an SEO question, really, about domain names. Is it considered better to go with a longer domain name with more keywords in it than a shorter, more simpler one?
My opinion is that you want to, there's a balance in there somewhere. You don't want to make it too long, certainly, so that if someone is trying to remember it, it's not going to be, you know, an overwhelming task for them to do that, or they're not going to be forced to write it down to remember it. So you want to keep it short enough so that it'll, you know, it sticks in somebody's head if they need to remember it for a few minutes. But you know, also use some of the more important keywords that you've decided are important for your site in it. I would say, if you're looking for specifics, don't go over 4, maybe 5 words long, and try to keep those words short.
Well, and I think the other point is you might have one domain name for your email address and for the name of your business, and you might have another domain name that is actually what you're using as the URL where your website is housed for SEO purposes.
Yes, that's a good point.
And here's a question. What's the best way to get inbound links?
There are several ways, and I think the best way is to actually go out basically and hit the pavement and try to gain those links manually. And that can involve finding websites you want to get a link on, writing an email to them, to their webmaster or whoever the contact is, saying, hey, I think you'd be interested in linking to our website. Would you please add a link to us? That's one way to do it. You can also encourage inbound links, what we call organically, which is providing content on your website that people want to link to. And that type of inbound traffic or inbound link is almost always more valuable in the search engine's eyes, the organic type of inbound links. So as long as that's another reason we encourage blog posts, because a blog is a great place for you to provide content that people want to link to. You can post news about your industry or your products or your services. You can post articles that you've found on the internet and talk about them. People try to make it a place for people to come because they respect your expertise in what you're doing and what you're saying. And that encourages other people to post links to your site organically. And that's probably the single best way to improve your site's performance in the search engines.
Does anybody else want to add anything to that inbound, how to get inbound links question? Now, this is a tough question. I'm going to go ahead and read it. But we want to attract visitors to our site that are not looking for us. For example, business owners who may wish to sell in the future but have not thought about searching for a broker for assistance. Or we may wish advisors such as attorneys, accountants, financial planners, etc. We may want them to visit our site so they will learn about our services for their clients. So I guess the question is, how do you attract people to your site that are not looking for you?
That's a good question. One thing we like to do for any client site we create is figure out what their niche is, and by that I mean figure out a unique angle to approach their search engine optimization efforts from. For example, it's much easier if we have a client who makes organic dog food versus a client that just makes general dog food. We can get them promoted higher in the search engines using keywords including organic dog food or natural dog food, pesticide-free dog food, that sort of thing, because the keywords are going to be far less competitive than for a very generic keyword such as dog food. So we try to find a niche angle to base our efforts upon. Now, if absolutely no one knows about your business and doesn't know that they need to know about your business, there are other things you could do, such as a pay-per-click campaign would probably be a good use of time there, and that involves using Google's AdWords or Bing's or Yahoo's paid advertisements, so that if you want yourself to appear when someone does a search for, I forgot what the topic of your business was, but if you want someone to
broker, I think.
Yes. Okay. So if you want your business to be shown when someone's searching for business brokers or something like that, you can use a pay-per-click campaign to have a paid advertisement at the top of the Google search results when based on certain keywords. And that's a good way to get that initial kind of foot in the door and get your site out in front of people's eyeballs if they don't know that they need to be looking at it.
I'd like to add a couple of things to that in terms of the business broker question specifically, because if you have a business brokerage service and you're looking for people who might have a business that they might want to sell but really don't know about a business broker, I would suggest that you write articles really targeted to that. Things about valuing a business, things about what are you going to do upon retirement if you consider selling your business, some of those kinds of things. And I would write those articles and I would pepper them around different places. And I don't, try to use some keywords in there and also backlink to your website. So I would probably use an ancillary method of marketing and educating about what a business broker is, and maybe even some stories about, positive stories about people who use business brokers and got more money for their business than someone who did not. So some of those items, and then I would always backlink to your website, and I would use social media to reinforce that. So I would actually create a campaign for that and do it. So that's nothing to do with web text, nothing to do with marketing on on the internet, but sort of a strategic application for that. That is the end of our questions. So I never did come back to you. Is there anything that you feel that you did not add that you would like to add at this point before we end the webinar?
I'd just like to point out that anytime you're interested in doing any sort of SEO campaign, optimizing your website, it's important to consider that it's not necessarily something you can just do once and leave alone. The world of search engine optimization changes frequently and often, and it's something you kind of need to do in an ongoing basis, because you can pretty much be assured that your competition is doing that. So if you optimize once and you say, hey, I'm near the top of the search page on Google, that's great, and then you don't do anything about it for 3 months or 6 months, you may well find yourself back down out of the front page of Google again. So it's important to keep a ongoing SEO effort.
Good. I do have another question here, and Tammy, I'm going to send this one to you because I know you've done a lot of work, you and Danielle, actually together. The question is, if you have offices located throughout the state, do you need a different SEO approach to include everyone geographically?
Yes, and it's tough. The best success I've had is you hope that the site you're building for has multiple locations, and each location has a particular territory. In that case, you can optimize the actual location page. But if it's a situation where it's one location servicing a very large area, it does get a bit more tricky with it, and it's back to that balance that Will was talking about. You don't want to list every possible, town in your territory, because that would just be very wordy, on your website and not mean too much. So what I have worked with clients in the past, and what we've done is narrowed down like their top 5 areas where their business comes from and optimized for that, and then did some trial and error with pulling in new areas, and that's specific to location, SEO. Obviously, that doesn't affect just the general SEO words for the product or service, but when you're dealing with locations, it can get tricky.
Mm-hmm. The other thing we've done is had developed websites that have specific pages for, whole sections devoted to locations, site-specific locations.
Right. It would be like instead of one page per location, it's a mini site per location.
And that has been useful, particularly if you have locations that offer different services than other locations. So, so we've had some very good results with that. Danielle, do you have anything you would like to add about that, since Expression Engine does that so well?
No, just going along with what Tammy said, having the particular separate mini sites and things like that can really help drive traffic if people are looking for things in their specific area. So that's been what I've seen as a really great way to approach multiple locations.
Okay. Excellent, excellent panel. You all are so knowledgeable. I'm so happy to have you all on our Core Cube team. And thank you, everyone who has attended. You've been a very good audience, although since you've been muted, we really can't hear any of your comments, but you've asked very good questions, and hopefully we've answered everything. If you have any other questions that you would like to have answered, you can email us at info@corecubed.com, and we'll be glad to help you with all kinds of things. We basically have our special expertise in internet marketing and website design, so we'd love to help you with that. And we do all manner of marketing as it does relate to internet. So here are some contact information numbers for you, and we hope that you will join us for our next webinar, which is March the 22nd, and it is on the brand new, just out today, enhanced features with WordPress. So we hope that you'll join us then, and please visit our corecubed.com website. Give us a call, and we'd love to help you. So thank you, panel. Thank you, Tammy, Danielle, Leann, and Will. You're just a wealth of wonderful information, and I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you later.